That brings us to Kevin Hart and Mark Wahlberg. Ryan, how about some Me Time? Another Kevin Hart comedy's on Netflix called Me Time. This one season paired with Mark Wahlberg, who plays the wild single buddy to Kevin Hart's super stay-at-home dad. When his wife decides to take the kids to her parents to allow the tightly wound Kevin Hart character some me time, what could possibly go wrong? Here's the nicest thing you can say about Me Time. It doesn't exactly go where you think it will. There's a slight unpredictability to the plot that I did find refreshing and enjoyable. Add to that the likability of both leads, Hart and Wahlberg, and some decent chuckles, and you have yourself a fine popcorn on the bed, Netflix and chill type movie, i.e., something that is easily ignored. Kevin Hart plays Sonny Fisher, an uptight, stay-at-home dad whose fragile male ego have made him into an overachiever in his field and still left him with feelings of inadequacy. His best friend, Huck, played by Mark Wahlberg, throws an annual lavish bash on his birthday, and his latest just happens to line up with Sonny's Me Time. So he goes to relive the glory days, and nothing turns out as planned. There are lion attacks, bed pooping, running over turtles, and amphetamine snorting. But really, Me Time is way more mild than wild. This is no Old School or Animal House. I would call this a raunchy family comedy, which is a confusing category and a tough needle to thread, but here we are. There's just enough family humor in this to keep it from being truly over the top, and just enough dick jokes to make it totally inappropriate for kids under 13. It does have an R rating, but in my humble opinion, just barely. Wahlberg and Hart have enough acting talent to fake the chemistry, which is pretty much non-existent, but this is not my favorite pairing I've seen from the comedian. Now, I've seen this movie getting blasted by other critics, and I get it, but it's far too easy a target. Me Time does deliver a fine, dumb date night comedy for middle-aged people, and I mean, that is an audience segment that I think will enjoy this movie. If that's not you, this is an easy skip.
What this reminded me of while you were reading your review there was the Adam Sandler movies when he goes back to Happy, what's his production company?
Happy Madison.
Happy Madison Productions. He's now branched out and made some serious films, and they're big ticket films. But then he can also fall back into these Happy Madison Productions that he signed this deal with Netflix. And again, it's kind of like minor work. It's not like, oh, this is going to be great, but it's not going to be bad either. It seems like Me Time never was going to strive for the greatness of like an Old School. It was content with just being what it is, a Netflix comedy.
True. And it's kind of a shame. I would almost say that the Sandler movies are kind of better. At least they have a serial nature, like some recurring gags and recurring characters that if you're a fan of the series, you'll get that reward from viewing those. Whatever Kevin Hart is doing with Netflix, there's no continuity. It basically just keeps making the same movie over again. This is exactly like the one he did with The Man from Toronto. No.
The Man from Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah. A little different. The characters are mixed around, but he's not a loser in this one. He's kind of an overachiever dad, but he's still like, I don't know. The only nice thing, like I said in my review, the only nice thing I can say is it didn't like follow the formula that I thought it was going to follow. It goes to some different places, like literally and figuratively. But him and Wahlberg just didn't play all that well together. In fact, Wahlberg's not even like a main character in the film, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's there. He's important to the story, but he's not really like a main player in the movie.
Wahlberg's interesting because I'm still not sure I find him funny even in the comedies, but every once in a while he comes through like the other guys he's hysterical in. And even Ted.
Ted is great in Ted.
But he's really not the star. It's really because it's so damn funny because of Ted. But Wahlberg, he does it justice, right? He's not terrible. For sure. So It's like, oh, I guess he can be funny. But in here, do you see like humor from him? Like, oh, this works because it's Mark Wahlberg, or not at all?
No, not at all. This is like totally the most wooden cardboard character There's no thought put into his story arc. It's there's a couple of jokes where he's like naked and he's very comfortable with being naked, and Kevin Hart is uncomfortable, and it's like blah. No, Wahlberg doesn't bring the comedy to this, unfortunately.
But because it's on Netflix, it probably gets not a terrible grade. But if you
Totally.
went to the theater and you paid money for this, I know you would be pissed.
Totally. Yes to both of those. Like I said, if you're looking for something to watch on a weekend with your honey, and you're like, I don't know, it's Kevin Hart, sure, go ahead and put that on. You'll watch the first 15 minutes, and then maybe the chill part of your Netflix and chill starts happening. Because really, this is a movie you can just put on in the background. It's perfectly unoffensive. If you tune in once in a while and then tune out, there's some decent chuckles here and there.
Was there a jaw-dropping moment?
Yeah, so there's a lion attack in this movie. Hart goes out. They find themselves in the desert, and Hart goes out to do his business in the desert, in the bush, and a lion cub comes up and starts like being curious and nuzzling his leg, and he's like, oh, a kitten. And then we see the mama lion. Now it's obviously CG, and I'm not telling you that this is the life of Pi or anything like that, but they, at least in the wide shots, had this lion moving, and it looks really, really good. Like the lion attack sequence for like a Kevin Hart, Adam Sandler type comedy was done pretty well. It was done very well.
How about a movie poster quote?
Your time could be spent better than me time.
How many jaws here, Matt K? Remember, we're on a 4-jaw scale.
Yes, I'm giving this 1.5 jaws out of 4. It's passable. Maybe get to like 1.75. Not a total waste of time, but I can't recommend this movie with a straight face.